Look at the comb in your bathroom, it's just a piece of plastic. But for our ancestors 50,000 years ago, a comb was the difference between life and death. In a world without medicine, a lice infestation wasn't just an itch, it was a biological time bomb that could destroy your immune system and kill you. For the first humans, grooming wasn't vanity. It was a high-stakes medical intervention. To survive the Stone Age, you didn't just need a weapon. You needed a tool to fight the invisible enemy crawling on your skin. Let's paint a picture of reality back then. You aren't living in a comfortable house with climate control. You are living in a cave or a lean-to made of animal hides, huddled around a fire that takes hours to get going. You are tired, you are hungry, and you are covered in the grime of the wild. And then there's the itch. Starts small, but it never goes away. We're talking about an ecosystem of parasites that has been evolving alongside us for millions of years. In the Paleolithic era, your hair wasn't just hair, it was a habitat. For a louse, a human scalp was a sprawling, warm, nutrient-rich metropolis. But for the human, it was a liability. Every time you scratched, you broke the skin. In a world where your only way to fight infection was your own blood and immune system, an open wound on the scalp was like leaving the front door of your fortress wide open for bacteria to march in. Imagine trying to track a herd of bison or forage for roots while you're being driven insane by thousands of tiny bites. Your focus is gone. Your sleep is non-existent. A human who cannot sleep, cannot focus, and cannot remain alert is a human who gets eaten. The parasites weren't just a nuisance. They were a systemic threat. They were stealing your calories, draining your blood, and slowly wearing down the thin layer of defense you had against a brutal, unforgiving environment. This was the silent plague of the ancient world. You couldn't shoot it with a spear, and you couldn't run away from it. You had to confront it head-on, literally, with your own hands. This is where the ingenuity of the early human mind kicks in. We often underestimate the brilliance of our ancestors, thinking they were just brute force. But the moment they realized they needed to physically remove these parasites, they had to invent a solution from scratch. They didn't have stores to walk into. They had the raw material of the earth. Think about the first time someone looked at a piece of wood or a discarded bone and saw the potential for a comb. It required a massive cognitive leap. It required the ability to see a problem, visualize a solution, and then commit hours of labor to execute it. This wasn't a quick fix. To carve a comb, you needed tools that were sharp enough to be precise but dull enough not to snap the material. You're talking about using flint flakes, obsidian shards, and perhaps even volcanic glass. Picture a mother sitting near the fire. The rest of the tribe is asleep. The only sound is the crackle of burning branches. She is holding a piece of bison rib. It's hard, but it's workable. She works the surface down until it's smooth. Then comes the carving. She has to space those teeth out perfectly. If they're too far apart, the lice stay in the hair. If they're too close, the comb gets clogged and useless. It's a delicate balance of engineering. She works by the flickering light, her eyes stinging from the smoke, her fingers aching from the effort. This is the definition of survival technology. She isn't just making a tool. She's creating a shield. She's creating a barrier between her family and the sickness that's been stalking them. When she finally finishes that first prototype, she runs it through her child's hair. It works. The relief is instant. For that moment, the itch stops, the danger is removed, and they can finally sleep. This was the first great medical victory of humanity. As time moved on, the comb evolved. It stopped being just a medical necessity and became a signature of human identity. When you look at the archaeological record, especially as we move into the Neolithic and later periods, you see that the comb starts to change. It gets ornate. It gets beautiful. Why? Because once we had conquered the immediate threat of parasites, we started to realize that our appearance mattered. Look at ancient Egypt or even the early Celtic tribes. You see combs carved from ivory, imported from thousands of miles away. You see intricate patterns, symbols of the sun, the gods, or the natural world. This is the moment humanity went from surviving to thriving. The comb became a vessel for art. It was a way to say, I am not just a member of a survival pack. I am an individual. But the most profound change was social. Grooming became the ultimate social glue. In a hunter-gatherer group, your survival depended on your bonds. If you were isolated, you died. But if you were part of a group, you lived. The act of grooming, of running a comb through someone else's hair, was the way you maintained those bonds. It signaled that you were part of the inner circle. It was a way to diffuse tension, to show affection, and to communicate trust without saying a word. In a world of chaos, the comb was the instrument of order and connection. It transformed the raw, messy business of group living into a structured, supportive community. There's a deeper layer to this too, something that taps into our psychology. Think about the feeling of being groomed. Why is it so profoundly relaxing? Why does a child melt when a parent strokes their hair? It's because for 300,000 years, that action has been hardwired into our brains as the ultimate all-clear signal. When you are being groomed, it means you are safe. It means you are surrounded by people who care enough to pick through your hair. It means there are no threats, no immediate danger, and you can afford to let your guard down. We are still living in those ancient bodies, craving that ancient signal of safety. That's why we love salons. That's why we love scalp massages. And that's why we feel so connected to our loved ones through the simple act of brushing their hair. We aren't just brushing away tangles. We are brushing away the echoes of 300,000 years of stress and survival. We are engaging in a ritual that has kept our species alive and sane since the dawn of time. Every plastic comb you own is a testament to the struggle of your ancestors. It's a quiet piece of history that sits on your counter, holding the legacy of every person who survived the Stone Age. They didn't just survive. They built the foundation for everything we are today. They made it through the brutal, itchy, terrifying reality of the prehistoric world, carving out a life for themselves, and by extension, for us. When you pick up your comb, you're holding on to one of the oldest survival technologies in human history. It's proof that we've always been problem solvers, always been caretakers, and always been connected to one another. Our ancestors fought the invisible enemy, and they won. They survived so that you could be here, looking back at their struggle and realizing that their resilience is running through your veins. That's why we're here, and that's the power of the human story. That's all for today. If you enjoyed diving into the evolution of human habits and decoding the history hidden in our everyday tools, hit that subscribe button to join us for more. We've got so much more to uncover. I'll see you in the next one.